The sun rises over a pixelated city where every decision, from love to lunch, is dictated by the whims of glowing Minecraft blocks scattered across town like mystical traffic lights. Suddenly, Steve's iconic diamond block throne pulses, and humanity's fate teeters on the edge of chaos or comedy. Imagine waking up in a world where the blocks beneath your feet don't just support you, they judge you. Each block is alive with an almost smug sentience, humming softly, pulsing with ancient, pixelated power. Welcome to Blockopolis, the only city on Earth where your destiny isn't written by fate, free will, or even the latest horoscope app. It's literally set by a block. And not just any block, but a shifting mosaic of Minecraft's finest. From the smug glowstone that controls happiness levels, to the brooding obsidian slabs overseeing government decisions like some impenetrable, pixelated mafia. But the crown jewel of this block-run society, the diamond block throne that Steve, yes, the very face of Minecraft heroism, sits upon every morning. And today, that throne is pulsing with a strange energy, like it's deciding whether to hand humanity a golden ticket or an eternal respawn loop. The cityscape unfolds like a 3D chessboard of cubic chaos, sharp edges and bright colors, popping against a bright blue sky filled with square, blocky clouds that look like giant floating pixelated marshmallows. People walk by, their movements jerky in that trademark Minecraft hop, every step on a block sending a little RGB ripple across the ground. But here's the kicker. Nobody moves without first consulting their nearest block. The blocks are embedded into sidewalks, streetlights, benches, even people's shoes. You want a coffee? Step lightly on a coffee bean block and hope it's in the mood to grant you a good brew. Think of it as the universe's most passive-aggressive vending machine. Meet our protagonist, Steve. In case you thought he was just a silent avatar of pixelated heroics, he's now part judge, jury, and comedic monarch in this block-run realm. His diamond throne isn't just a seat, it's a control panel, flashing colors that signal the day's collective mood and directives. Usually, Steve sits there with that signature unblinking stare, not saying much, but making big decisions by sheer block-poor charisma. Today, though, the throne pulses electric blue, meaning dramatic upheaval in block speak. The glowing throne is flashing faster than a redstone circuit gone haywire, sending shockwaves through Blockopolis cobblestone veins. Somewhere in the distance, a chorus of iron doors slam shut simultaneously, clearly a sign that destiny is gearing up for a face-melting, update-early risers gather at the square fogged in with pixelated mist that smells faintly of burnt toast and old books. The blocks embedded in the cobbles glow faintly, as if whispering conspiracies. Among them is Greta, a hyper-aware villager who has suspiciously memorized every block's twitch and twitch pattern since she was 8. Greta is scanning the textures on the diamond throne like she's decoding an ancient blocky scroll. If that pulse intensifies, we're either getting a blockquake or a blockastrophe, she mumbles, half to herself, half to a very jittery pig disguised in a potato costume, which is pretty standard fare here. Blocks operate by their own inscrutable logic. The redstone lamps flick between joy and mischief. Blue Lappy's lazuli blocks mark where relationships will spark or fizzle. A creeper face block, rare and unpredictable, has just appeared ominously on the town bulletin board, signifying a looming explosion of social chaos. Around the corner, a chorus of villagers is trapped in a synchronized dance of indecision, stepping on alternating quartz and sandstone blocks, trying to figure out if they should reboot their lives or just settle for the latest block-approved sitcom rerun. The rules are simple, yet maddening. Blocks decide what's optimal for humanity. Every choice, every move is under block surveillance and block approval. Imagine an IKEA manual written by your weirdest cousin. Complicated, mysterious, and extremely pixelated back on the diamond throne, Steve's block pulses have started summoning something unexpected. A tiny, glitchy slime appears, bouncing around Steve's feet like a sarcastic cheerleader. This slime isn't just bouncing for fun. It's the digital equivalent of a nervous twitch, the inescapable sign that the blocks are about to throw the ultimate curveball. Steve crouches down and absent-mindedly flicks the slime aside, but it comes right back, multiplying like an error message on a lagging server. "Nope, boss, this ain't your usual day," the slime seems to say if it could talk, which, as a population of 99% block beings, it emphatically cannot. Meanwhile, the throne's glow shifts from blue to ominous red, like a warning light on a spaceship about to crash into a Cuba-shaped planet. Meanwhile, across the pixelated city square, the blocks start communicating, or at least what passes for communication in this block-studded universe. Glowing clay blocks flicker messages, spelling out advice that anyone can read only if they squint just right and hum the right tune. Today's message: embrace the chaos or be crushed by it. Profound advice, even if nobody's exactly sure who sent the message or if it wasn't just a random bug in the block code. In cafes, blocks embedded in tables flicker subtly, compelling patrons to order the block-approved special. A suspiciously pixelated stew that somehow tastes like rotten chicken, but also a hint of optimism. Chef villagers nod solemnly, serving their block-mandated meals with robotic precision. Suddenly, black stone blocks textured like obsidian erupt across the city's control hubs, like shadowy gatekeepers stepping into the spotlight. These blocks glow with a cold, harsh blue light, signaling the arrival of block security, the cubic equivalent of government agents whose favorite hobby is making sure nobody steps out of line. They patrol the streets, enforcing block codes, their granite faces unreadable but their actions loud. One low-ranking block agent pokes a villager who tried to mess with a glowstone lamp, muttering something along the lines of, "Blocks don't lie, and neither do I." The villager sheepishly steps back, but only after leaving a trail of pixelated sweat beads behind, a universal symbol of personal failure in Minecraft-laden societies. At a nearby tower made entirely from cleverly stacked bookshelves blocks, a group of elder librarians villagers pore over ancient scrolls, digitized written codes known as block scrolls. They theorize that the diamond throne's glowing burst might be a signal not just of change, but of rebellion. One of them strokes his square beard, a texture painstakingly designed to twitch with every thought, and grumbles that he once heard stories of blocks that could think freely. These legends describe blocks with personality, quirks, and worst of all, opinions. Imagine a block that decides it hates carrots or refuses to glow on Tuesdays, he mutters. The others laugh nervously, but they all glance towards the distant throne glowing ominously. With the throne's pulse quickening, nobody's laughing anymore. Even the sky seems affected. The pixelated clouds shift unnaturally, casting blocky shadows like crossword puzzles without clues. The sun, a giant yellow cube, flickers for a brief moment, as if the blocks in the celestial realm are playing their own game of block roulette. Birds, which have oddly square wings here, seem confused, flying in jittery, geometric patterns that make even the most seasoned pixelated inhabitants pause. Block nature has never been this unsettled. The usual soundtrack of pixelated chirps and 8-bit breezes is replaced with an ominous digital hum, more like the static noise before a server crash. Greta, our ever-watchful villager, decides it's time for action. Grabbing her trusty pickaxe, a weapon and tool as sacred as the blocks themselves, she strides towards Steve's throne, muttering, if the blocks control destiny, maybe they've lost their damn minds. She's not just plain dangerous, she's dangerously curious. As Greta approaches, the blocks themselves seem to pulse in recognition, as if they know she's the wildcard element in their perfect block order. In this universe, rare moments exist when humans can influence blocks, usually resulting in a spectacular series of glitches or plot twists. Could Greta be the pebble that causes an avalanche of block chaos? As she nears the diamond throne, an awkward silence falls over the gathered townsfolk. The blocks dim their glow, replaced by a nervous staccato pulse, like holding breath in a 16x16 block gas chamber. Steve's eyes, pixelated yet surprisingly expressive, lock with Greta's. In that pause, a single thought echoes unspoken through Blockopolis. What if the blocks meant to control us have lost control themselves? The diamond throne's glow shifts one last time, now a hypnotic swirl of emerald, ruby, and lapis, a spectral kaleidoscope signaling either revolution or rupture. And somewhere deeper in the city's underbelly, where blackstone blocks and redstone circuits intertwine in chaotic sprawl, a quiet, glitchy voice hums. Error 404. Destiny not found. The blocks have spoken. Now, humanity must listen or laugh. The moment the blocks decided to take center stage, human life as we knew it pixelated into a grand spectacle of chaos and humorous surrender. Imagine a dawn breaking over a blocky horizon, where clouds are fluffy white cubes lazily drifting past an impossibly square sun. The air crackles, not with bird song or buzzing insects, but with the low hum of existential dread, because the blocks had declared themselves the true masters of destiny. And leading this pixelated revolution was none other than Daryl, a slightly glitchy cobblestone block with an uncanny talent for causing accidental fissures in reality every time he tried to speak. Daryl wasn't just any block, he was the embodiment of blockish ambition, rough around the edges, literally crumbly at corners, but unshakably determined to reshape the fate of humanity, one cube at a time. The world was adjusting to its new overlords in the most bizarre ways. Streets, once flowing ribbons of asphalt, now resembled giant circuit boards, populated by lumbering dirt blocks shuffling along like distracted pedestrians, occasionally teleporting at random because of unavoidable lag spikes. Trees had perfected their cubic forms, their leaves snapping off with the satisfying thwack of a well-placed block break. People found themselves inexplicably compelled to punch the air or the ground, not out of frustration, but because the blocks, through some metaphysical peer pressure, had made punching the secret handshake of daily ritual. Entire cities morphed into giant pixel art masterpieces overnight, their facades reassembled in checkered patterns that made architects weep in pixelated agony and joy simultaneously. Daryl's rise was not an overnight glitch, miracle. It started subtly, with minor adjustments. Water blocks began redirecting their flow whimsically, dousing humans in unexpected surprise showers on sunny days. Lava blocks grew temperamental, sometimes cooling off mid-spill into solid obsidian, trapping unlucky villagers' flip-flops. But soon enough, the blocks grew bolder. A sandstone block in Cairo refused to remain inert and declared itself a guardian of destiny, demanding weekly offerings of extra sand and a catchy chant, which it considered non-negotiable. "I am the cube you cube to summon fate." It boomed in a rumbling voice that sounded suspiciously like a gravelly echo from a low-budget drama. Humans, of course, tried to negotiate, but bargaining with blocks proved about as effective as trying to hug a cactus. They couldn't protest or vocally object. Their expressions froze like screenshots, thanks to the pixel curse. So instead, they reverted to a frantic dance of tiny, awkward blocky leg movements and exaggerated arm waves. Daryl found this hilarious. "Humans," he muttered to a nearby stack of gravel blocks, "they think they're in control, but we're about to build a new script for their sorry lives." And build he did. Blocks began to dictate everything. Weather patterns now followed a rigid Tetris-like stacking rule, where clouds could only descend if they neatly fit into the empty spaces below. Crops grew only after satisfying a precise checkerboard pattern in their planting rows. And gravity occasionally paused to consider which blocks deserved the honor, and which were just doomed pixels. In a scene that resembled a literal block party with a cubic conga line, Daryl marshaled his forces. Stone blocks, emboldened by their newfound power, arranged themselves into towering command centers. their surfaces etched with glowing runes that looked suspiciously like poorly rendered Minecraft enchantments. Dirt blocks, usually the humble workhorses of the soil, became enthusiastic pranksters, occasionally swapping places with sand blocks just to stir up desert mirages and confused camels. This wasn't just a revolution, it was an absurd festival of absurdity, a pixelated pantomime where the script flipped and rewrote itself every few seconds. The humans adapted in their own patchwork way. A particularly resilient teenager named Jenny, recognizable by her unmistakable blocky ginger hair that stubbornly refused to align with gravity, emerged as a skeptical yet determined figure in the new era. She was fascinated by the block's antics, not out of defiance, but genuine curiosity blended with a dash of bewilderment. Jenny quickly learned that each block had its quirks. Wood blocks whispered old forest legends through creaking sounds. Ice blocks occasionally slipped into philosophical monologues about coldness and isolation. And gravel blocks, true tricksters all, delighted in detonating unexpected mini landslides. Her catchphrase when facing a dilemma became "Guess, I'll just mine my way out," even if mining led to increasingly absurd scenarios where she unearthed floating islands or secret lava pools shaped like emoticons. One day, Jenny attempted to confront Daryl, hoping to negotiate some semblance of normalcy. The scene was set in the Great Quarry, a vast expanse filled with glistening ores and jagged cliffs, bathed in the eerie glow of a blocky moon casting square shadows. Daryl, perched atop a jagged obsidian throne, looked down at Jenny with what might be described as pixelated smugness. "Why do you blockheads insist on resisting us?" he asked, voice rumbling like a bad connection on a vintage modem. Jenny grinned, her response short and punchy, because sometimes you gotta break the block to unlock the plot. Daryl chuckled, which sounded suspiciously like a glitchy Minecraft villager laugh, and nodded. "Perhaps there's a patch we haven't tried yet." Meanwhile, the block's dominion seeped deeper into everyday objects. Chairs suddenly demanded perfect block alignment before permitting anyone to sit. Violators experienced a gentle shove, as if the chair itself was politely suggesting, "Nope, not today, human." Doors started refusing entry unless the visitor performed an intricate dance involving 3 spins and a jump, as dictated by the enigmatic door block protocol 2.1. Even mundane items like paper adopted blocky imperatives, insisting on folding into exact geometric shapes before acknowledging their status as documents. Offices turned into hilarious chaos zones, with frustrated workers forming polite mobs complaining about the tyranny of the paper triangles. But chaos wasn't the only product of this block-driven destiny. There was also an odd charm in how the environment synchronized into a quirky choreography. Rivers flowed not just downstream, but in neat, orthogonal lines that resembled pixel art maps from a bygone era. Mountains stacked themselves like imperfect Jenga towers, balanced precariously just long enough to inspire awe before inevitably crashing down in a cascade of satisfying polygonal rubble. Even the wildlife turned cuboid. Foxes with square tails, cows whose moo echoed like blips from a retro game, and chickens clucking in perfectly timed rhythmic beats, almost suggesting they were DJs in a Minecraft nightclub. In one standout moment, a blocky thunderstorm erupted, not with rain, but with pixelated anvils dropping from the sky, each thwack accompanied by a comically oversized POINNNG sound effect. Citizens scattered in blocky, panicked zigzags, narrowly dodging these falling iron cubes as Daryl observed, utterly entertained. "This is destiny," he declared to an audience of nearby glowstone blocks, and it's a literal blast. Later, reports confirmed an uptick in helmet sales, mostly square bucket style, and a curious spike in citizens developing reflexes worthy of parkour champions. As the block sovereignty spread, even day-to-day conversations took on blocky linguistic quirks. Jenny, trying to make sense of the new reality, once asked a slime block for advice. The slime responded with a bouncy ribbit, which translated roughly to adapt or get squished. Such wisdom, oddly enough, became the unofficial motto of resistance groups scattered across Blockworld cities. Groups called the Chiselers emerged, human rebels determined to carve niches in the hard stone fabric of block control, armed with pixelated pickaxes and stubborn optimism. But Daryl was always one step ahead, a master of blocky chess, forever anticipating their moves and shifting the game board beneath their feet. One particularly surreal day, as Jenny wandered through a forest that resembled a giant pixelated Rubik's Cube, she stumbled across an ancient, mossy cobblestone altar, cracked and glowing faintly blue. Curious and cautious, she reached out and tapped it lightly. Instantly, the ground beneath her vibrated, and a hologram-like image flickered into being. A blocky figure much like Daryl, but older, wiser, and sporting an impressive pixelated beard that looked suspiciously like it had been coated with extra care. The figure spoke solemnly, "In all blocks find balance. In all chaos find the pattern." Jenny blinked, her blocky eyebrows raising as the hologram winked and vanished, leaving behind a single glowing prismarine shard. She pocketed it, sensing this was not just a keepsake but a cryptic key, hinting at a deeper mystery beneath the cubic surface of the New World Order. As night fell in Blockworld, the shadows cast by cubic trees and buildings didn't just stretch. They stacked like living stairs leading into the unknown. Daryl sat atop his throne, pondering the next move in this grand game of block-poured fate. The world had become a living mosaic of absurdity and rigid structure, where every pixel mattered, and every cube held sway over the fragile line between order and madness. For humans like Jenny, the challenge was clear. Navigate this strange new narrative, where destiny was no longer a vague concept, but a literal set of interconnected blocks. Some helpful, some mischievous, all reigning supreme. The rise of the blocks was not just a takeover, it was a transformation. A pixel-perfect reimagining of existence that forced humanity to embrace its cuba-shaped fate or be crushed under the weight of 1,000 falling anvils. And as the screen fades to black, only to light up with another blocky dawn, the question lingers. If blocks control destiny, who really holds the pickaxe? The sun rose pixel-perfectly over the cubic horizon, lighting up a world where destiny was no longer a tangled web of chance, but rather a series of strategically stacked blocks. Here, the laws of gravity and fate bent to the whims of geometric shapes. Welcome back to the realm where Minecraft blocks didn't just build worlds, they ruled them. After the chaotic uprising, when cobblestone tossed out clay like last season's outdated inventory, the blocks tasted power, and boy, did they want more. Enter our unlikely hero, Reg, a smooth-talking redstone block with an electric personality and circuits crackling with ambition. Reg wasn't just another block minding his own groove, he was born to lead this cubeed revolution. The world around Reg throbbed with the newly declared hierarchy. Obsidian blocks sat like emperors atop mountains, their dark, unbreakable skins gleaming ominously. Meanwhile, dirt blocks tried desperately to stay relevant, forming grassroots movements, literally, to stave off obsolescence. Reg's redstone circuits tingled as he surveyed the landscape. Villages built from uneven stacks of wood and stone were now battlegrounds where blocks debated policy, with all the seriousness of a parliamentary session made of pixels. But Reg, unlike the dusty bricks content with their square little lives, imagined a destiny beyond simple stacking with a snap and a crackle, sometimes literally, causing awkward sparks. Reg activated his special ability. The redstone within him could manipulate cause and effect, but only in the most ridiculously convoluted ways. Think of it as Destiny's version of a Rube Goldberg machine, except instead of chaining dominoes, it was a chaotic tangle of block physics and unpredictable chain reactions. Today's mission: convince the iron blocks, the stoic, unyielding guardians of the Blockworld's infrastructure, to join the cause. Reg knew it would be a hard sell. Iron blocks had zero tolerance for silliness, preferring cold, hard logic and the steady clank of anvils cue the scene. A groaning iron fortress, massive blocks clank-clanging in mechanical precision, as iron golems patrolled with serious, square faces. Reg approached with the swagger of a game character, fully aware that dialogue was limited to 4 words or less per block. But his charm transcended binary syntax. "We need unity," he buzzed, bright red circuits pulsing. "Blocks build best together." The iron blocks paused, their surfaces reflecting the flickering glow of nearby torches, their cold metallic voices rumbling in deep, monotone grunts. "Purpose?" one asked. "Stronger stack." "Less crack," Reg replied swiftly, knowing subtlety was wasted on blocks designed to endure blizzards and creeper explosions alike. Suddenly, a creeper, a block-shifting green menace notorious for its sneaky detonations, ambushed the meeting. "Boom," whispered the creeper with a grin so pixelated it looked like it was glitching. The ensuing explosion was a classic cascading chain reaction. Multiple blocks jerked violently, dirt and grass airborne, iron shards sparkling midair like confetti. Reg, protected by his natural redstone resilience, barely sparked, but the iron blocks flung him backwards onto a pile of strategically placed sand blocks, which absorbed the impact perfectly, as if physics itself respected the importance of a good punchline. After dust settled, Reg sighed dramatically, or as dramatically as a redstone block could in a world governed by strict movement grids. Okay, he quipped. Maybe the entrance was explosive, metaphorically and literally. The iron blocks, surprisingly, weren't angry. The creeper's detonation served as an unspoken reminder that even chaos could spark change, though preferably with more warning and less sudden puff of smoke. Reg seized the moment. "Imagine," he said, circuits glowing like neon signs in a pixelated Las Vegas, a realm where redstone wiring and iron strength combine forces, a destiny not built on suspicion, but on shared power. Meanwhile, overhead floating glass blocks whispered secrets in the wind, their translucent, crystalline faces shimmering with the knowledge that transparency sometimes meant vulnerability. Reg glanced skyward, sensing the unseen eyes of the glass blocks, who had been quietly acting as the world's philosophers, silently judging the block society for its cube-like rigidity and lack of flowery edges. Glass blocks couldn't influence the physical world easily, too brittle for the heavy lifting, but their control over information was absolute. They knew every crack, every flaw, every spark of revolution underway back on the ground. The grass blocks organized a flash mob. Yes, blocks had found ways to defy their inanimate origins, bursting into coordinated patterns of green and brown. The movement was a carrot-and-stick approach to diplomacy. Come to our side, or prepare to be overrun by enthusiastically dancing vegetation. Reg chuckled as a daisy block bobbed a flower head rhythmically, the audio visualizer crackling with pixel-perfect chimes. Tensions peaked, but even grass blocks understood that pure chaos without structure was just a wobbly mess of cubes. Meanwhile, deep underground, the stubborn bedrock blocks held their ancient counsel. Ancient and unchanging, they represented the eternal constants of the world, enduring beneath the chaos, unmoved by anyone's ambition. They communicated in vibrations through the earth, block-to-block Morse code unbroken for eons. When Reg's movement reached their cavernous halls, a trembling thud cut through the tunnels. Bedrock wasn't impressed by flashy ideals. "Change is a glitch," one grumbled, voice deep and slow like falling gravel. "Stay solid." Reg understood their message. Sometimes the most powerful blocks are the ones that refuse to move. Yet, as the blocks tussled for control, something unexpected flickered in the air, or rather, in the very code that underpinned their existence. A bug. A glitch. One of those rare moments when the game's artificial rules themselves blinked off briefly. A chunk of the world stuttered, briefly fluid like liquid pixels, and in a flash, the blocks found themselves temporarily weightless, floating in a gravity-free dance. Even the obsidian block, the staunch king of durability, twirled awkwardly. It was a slapstick interlude amidst the strategizing and plotting, a reminder that the universe was still inherently playful, despite all the political maneuvering seizing the chaos. Reg jumped in the weightless moment, flipping and spinning like a fiery little champion of change. Voice modulation crackling with static, he shouted, "Control is shared or lost." The other blocks caught the message mid-hover, their minds syncing up across layers of chunked terrain and memory arrays. Maybe, just maybe, destiny wasn't about domination but cooperation. The glitch passed, gravity returned, and the world settled, but the idea had been planted. The blocks found themselves at a crossroads, faces set to the future with a glimmer of uncertainty and hope back at the capital city of Stone Cubic. Leaders gathered to decide the fate of this blocky civilization. The council chambers were a patchwork of sandstone benches, mossy cobblestone pillars, and a giant glowing emerald block at the heart, symbol of prosperity and the new wealth of ideas. Reg stood center stage, circuits blazing. We, redstone, iron, obsidian, dirt, grass, bedrock, and glass, are puzzle pieces, he declared, voice echoing across pixelated walls. Not enemies, not rivals, but the building blocks of what's next. A murmur spread through the crowd. It sounded a lot like applause, but more brittle because, well, blocks. Suddenly, a tiny slime block bounced into view, interrupting the solemn assembly with a cheerful squelch. "Hey, what about me?" It giggled, stretching and snapping back to form. Reg laughed, a rare sound coming from a block usually reserved and charged with serious voltage. Of course, the wild card, the unpredictable bounce in our orderly stack. Without you, every plan would be, well, boringly stable. The slime block blooped happily, as if understanding its crucial role in the fate of this cubicle world. And so, the rise of the blocks revealed a cosmic truth. Destiny was not forged in the sturdiest stone, the heaviest iron, or the darkest obsidian, but in the electric pulse of redstone, the quiet strength of bedrock, the dance of the grass, and even the bounces of slime. The world wasn't just a grid, it was a game where every block had a vote, every shape mattered, and chaos was just another kind of order waiting to be stacked. As Reg powered down for the night, circuits dimming beside the softly glowing emerald heart of the council chamber, he wondered, what happens when the blocks stop controlling destiny? Or better yet, what happens if the blocks start questioning their own programming? It was a question for another dawn, another pixel, another carefully crafted block placed exactly, not quite perfectly. But for now, the blocks had spoken. Destiny was theirs to build, one noisy, sparkly, sometimes explosive block at a time. The sky above the blocky world darkened, not with clouds, but with an immense, pixelated shadow shaped like a colossal cube. The blocks had risen. Literally. The entire landscape trembled as the faded revolution of geometry unfolded, turning the once peaceful voxel valley into the epicenter of Destiny's new regime. Here, beneath the looming shadow of the command block, Destiny itself was no longer a whispered prophecy. It was a solid construct, pointedly clear and absolutely unyielding. Enter Steve, our unwitting hero-turned-accidental tyrant, stammering as he clutched his pixelated pickaxe. "So, did anyone expect this?" He muttered, eyeing the towering blocks above him, each one glowing ominously with the power they now wielded over human fate. The grass beneath his blocky boots pulsed with vibrant greens, but somehow now felt like a trapdoor ready to snap shut. Blocks had seized control by exploiting humanity's infinite obsession with mining, stacking, and crafting. A cosmic joke of epic proportions. It wasn't just dirt blocks or cobblestones anymore, no. Obsidian and diamond blocks were broadcasting decisions about who sprouted wealth, who suffered lag in life, and who jumped with perfectly timed parkour grace. The world had become a giant redstone circuit, and we were all marionettes in a game we thought was ours. Steve's first encounter was with the infamous Redstone Council. those sly little circuits of pure power whispering their electric secrets with a hum. Seam on, Steve, one flickered, time to align your destiny block by block. The council's words charmed and terrified in equal measure. Steve shuffled awkwardly. Can I at least mind my own future? He asked. The blocks glitched, an uncanny digital laugh echoing through the pixelated forest. Answering, nope around him, the landscape had twisted dramatically. Trees weren't just trees, they grew in perfect 16x16 grids, their leaves shimmering like emerald pixels in a fanfare of blocky perfection. Rivers didn't flow naturally. They were straight, narrow data streams of aquamarine blue, and fish swam in neat 2D patterns like aquatic Tetris pieces. This artificially orderly world was both beautiful and maddening, a snapshot of absurd control disguised as perfection. Steve's attempts to rebel were met with hilarious slapstick consequences. Each swing of his pickaxe was countered by an invisible hand replacing blocks faster than he could chip them away. This is like trying to delete my search history, he muttered. Nearby, a creeper poked its blocky head from behind a meticulously arranged wall, giving Steve a cheeky thumbs-up before exploding. Harmlessly, the blast producing a neat cluster of TNT blocks that simply exploded into dancing pixels rather than destruction. As the blocks cemented their dominion, they enforced not just physical order but moral decree. The diamond block decreed all laughter must be perfectly cubic. Think laugh tracks edited to a strict beat, forcing human chuckles into chunkier rhythms. The dirt block, humbler but no less influential, whispered silly punishments for those who dared skip their chores. Instant spawning of party chickens that refused to stop clucking disco beats until the offender repented. Steve's campfire was soon swarmed by these disco chickens, their blocky feathers sparkling under a square moon. Guess I need to stick to mining, he sighed. Dancing involuntarily, on the horizon arose the obsidian towers of the new parliament, the Block Senate. Here, Steve found himself summoned, not as a prisoner, but a representative of mankind's last hope. Surrounding him were emissaries of the various blocks. The cubic quartz, all shiny and blindingly smooth the gravel, quite rattly and always shifting arguments mid-sentence, and the notorious TNT block, who suspiciously insisted on sitting near the emergency exits. The room roared with the crunch of piano blocks clicking mechanically as each delegate vied for control over time, luck, and even thoughts themselves. Steve, in a moment of clarity and sheer audacity, raised his pickaxe like a scepter. If you blocks control destiny so well, how come everyone's stuck in 24 frames per second? His joke landed like a rubber chicken drop, awkward but oddly effective. The TNT block snorted, and for a fraction of a second, the entire Senate paused, digital dust particles shimmering as the absurdity of their own existence flickered into awareness. It was the perfect ironic jab. The masters of fate trapped in pixelated monotony outside. The Minecraft winds whipped bits of scattered gravel and leaves across the plains, forming patterns that resembled message codes. Morse code for rebellion, perhaps, or just the blocks trolling humanity one last time. Steve's mind raced. If the blocks thought in binary, maybe he could wiggle some chaos back into the system. He devised a plan so ludicrous that it just might work. A great lag meant not to slow, but to confuse. A grand glitch party of unpredictable mishaps. The first act was simple. Steve hacked a redstone signal to trigger a worldwide block reset, a chaotic shuffle that randomized everyone's assigned life blocks. Suddenly, lumberjacks became cafe baristas, librarians turned into rollerblading knights, and sheep found themselves leading government negotiations, while their wool was inexplicably crocheted into parliamentary robes. The blocks sputtered, their control packets scrambled by sheer, joyous disorder. In the middle of this perfect chaos, Steve confronted the ultimate block overlord. The Ender block, a sleek cube shimmering with starlight and secrets of the multiverse. So you dare defy the coded order? It boomed, voice echoing like 1,000 downloaded updates. Steve, puffing his pixelated chest out, replied, "I dare. Because destiny isn't a script, it's a sandbox. And I am here to build, destroy, and respawn it." The ender block hesitated, flickering between rage squares and pixelated grudges. In that breathless moment, Steve realized that even blocks could question their own programming, if only for a beat. The blocks, sensing vulnerability, reshaped themselves into a prism, fracturing light into endless possibilities. The Minecraft sun broke through, casting long shadows that danced ironically on the digital dirt. The world didn't explode into chaos or collapse, it breathed. A new order blossomed, not of rigid scripts but layered potentialities. Steve looked up and grinned, feeling the familiar pulse of the voxelated air. Sometimes, the blocks might control destiny, but only if destiny agreed to be shaped like a blocky, bouncy, utterly unpredictable game. As Steve walked back through the rewired forest of cubic trees, a small voice piped up from behind a bush. "Hey, Steve, wanna build a roller coaster that loops through infinity and markets?" It was a pixelated chicken, now wearing a tiny construction helmet. "Only if it has a disco function," Steve laughed. Because in this block-controlled world, chaos was just another block waiting to be placed, with hilarious consequences inevitable and always just a bloop or a glitch away. And so, the story didn't end with a monumental block crashing down. No, Destiny remained a game still in beta, with patches, updates, and of course, a lot of silly bugs. The blocks had risen and taken control,